Pascal Siakam is an all-star. He makes it despite the Pacers' poor record. Why? Is that absolutely the right choice? Then Rhett Bauer is going to join for our monthly update on the Pacers ahead of the trade deadline, updating on things that really matter. Most likely to get traded. Has it changed another player to keep your eye on? We'll get to all of it today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin, and today, Pascal Siakam, he did it on a bad team. He is all-star bound for LA in mid-February, making the reserve field in the East. Why? I think that's the right choice, despite me predicting it wouldn't actually happen yesterday. And then Rhett Bauer will join for our bi-weekly, tri-weekly, whatever we call it, updates on the Pacers ahead of the trade deadline. What has changed for the Pacers, who to keep your eye on, things that we maybe have gotten wrong or right during this trade cycle as we do our final predictions ahead of the trade deadline coming in just a few days on Thursday. But we start with the big news of the weekend, of the day, the All-Star Reserve announcements named on NBC Sunday evening. And Pascal Siakam is in. And I said yesterday, I thought he would not make it, not because of his production. His production seemed like no doubt levels of in to me, but because the Pacers record was so poor. I did the research that last year's last worst record team to have a player make it was Wemby on the 20-24 Spurs. The Pacers well below that mark this time around, but I did not bake in enough, just the East in general. No Tatum, no Haliburton, Dame is gone, and he had been better than a lot of other guys who had chances to rise up and take some of those spots. He's been better than Bam. He's been better than Michael Porter Jr. He's been better than Brandon Ingram. He's been better than a ton of guys in the East. And on production, I've said the whole time that even with the Pacers' poor record, which I thought would hold him back, he obviously is producing at that kind of level, right? I've always been doing the same exercise the whole season, but just to continue to do it. And now it's perfect. I can put a bow on it from the day that Pascal Siakam was named an all-star, round his stats down a half point, points, rebounds, and assists per game. And you get 23.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. Here's the entire group of players who have achieved those numbers this year. Siakam, obviously. Nikola Jokic, all-star. Luka Doncic, all-star. Deni Avdija, all-star. Giannis Antetokounmpo, all-star. Jaylen Brown, all-star. And Joel Embiid, who maybe is the biggest snub in the league and has only played 28 games. And that really hurts him. And that is a point that I will get to in getting to Pascal Siakam's case. But his production clearly deserved it. I mean, of those players, most of them are in the West anyway. Giannis, Brown, Embiid, Siakam in the East. And so it was clear to me he was playing well enough to do it. And I don't like comparing on-off numbers of players on different teams, but just Siakam's alone this season to this point, with Siakam on the floor, the Pacers net rating right now is minus 3.69. That's not awesome. It's obviously below zero, but that's like the 23rd, 22nd best if it was a full team, full season number. And without him on the floor, it's minus 15.5, which would be last by a mile. The worst teams are like minus 10. So he is worth 11 points per 100 possessions to the Pacers this year, a.k.a. they are not bad because of Pascal Siakam. It makes them at least halfway decent. TJ McConnell said when I asked him at practice about, how records get baked in to players' all-star things, he says, without Pascal, we might have one win. And he's being a little hyperbolic, but not that much, right? He's hit clutch shots in like half their wins. Maybe not quite that, but close to it, right? Production alone, Siakam, no doubt, makes it. And that doesn't even account for his defense, which is always solid and always there. And the things that are intangible that a lot of players have, and Siakam certainly has, his consistency is remarkable. Not a single-digit scoring game this year, right? He's always hitting the glass. The defense, the leadership, all this stuff that's important for steering a bad team, Pascal Siakam has provided this year, and I'm glad he gets rewarded with this honor. For a lot of things, for him, this is a big deal. 4-time All-Star. It's a lot. That's getting up there for a career achievement. 5 is still certainly possible. He turns 32 later this year. And I don't know what everyone feels like. A different number feels like a lot in their head. 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there, I think is the number for people. But Siakam is certainly getting closer to that. Like he was an all-star a lot of times. The thing that's significant about this one is it's the first time he's done it in consecutive seasons. It was 2020, then 2023, then 2025. So a 2-year gap and then a 1-year gap. Now this year, twice in a row, Siakam has been an all-star. And now something I will probably annoyingly cite as people ask about how good Siakam is or wonder what his level will be next season. Every full season he's played with the Pacers, he has been an all-star, right? Both of them, both full years now that he will spend with the franchise, he has been an all-star. And he totally deserves it. The stats and production speak for itself. And it's not his fault that the thing that would have been held against him was poor. And a lot of the guys who people would put on the snub team, and I appreciate that people do this. Who could have been in? Who was close? Right, a lot of the most common East names are Michael Porter Jr., who I think Siakam's been better than, and the Pacers and Nets have very similar records. And then the other ones are like Banchero and Embiid, and they have been good, don't get me wrong, but they got hurt and missed a lot of time. And that is the other thing Siakam has done for the Pacers at a remarkable level is since they traded for him in the middle of 2024, he has only missed one game, I believe, for an actual injury when he had elbow bursitis at the end of last season. Every other game he's missed has been personal reasons or the Pacers choosing to rest him, right? He is an Iron Man. He is consistent as it comes, and he is obviously extremely good. And if you had to, I'm not saying any coach did this, but, if you're going to put a player on a bad record team in, there is something to say about the Pacers finals run proving how good he is and how good the team is. And everybody knows why the Pacers have been bad this year and perhaps their record not indicative of the talent of the players on the team. So if any bad record team is going to get a pass, one that just made the freaking finals is probably the one to do it. And so despite recent history and intuition of how all-stars get named by every panel who chooses them, saying that a bad record would hurt Siakam's case, he broke through that and made it and totally deserves it in this East field. Totally deserves it. Team World, he will be on. Good for him. I think that his Pacers resume is kind of low-key climbing very quickly. You might not think of this off the top of your head, but 8 players in Pacers history have been multi-time All-Stars while playing for the Pacers, right? That list is Roy Hibbert, Paul George, Reggie Miller, Jermaine O'Neal, Domantas Sabonis, Victor Oladipo, Tyrese Haliburton, and now Siakam, right? Some of those guys had way more longevity with the franchise than others, but that is a rough estimate of the best players at their, not saying career achievement best players, but peak talent to play for the Pacers ever is some of that list and a couple other guys. And Siakam is firmly in that conversation with many more years on his deal. Last year, my kind of theme of what this meant for the Pacers, beyond that it's a very big deal that Siakam gets to represent them in LA this year, is that they were obviously right to gamble on the trade for him in 2024. That's what I said last year, right? They thought he'd resign, and if he did, they believed he was worth it to risk it on, and they were right. He was an all-star, and he led them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Since then, he went to the finals, and once again, even in a bad season, has been a metronome. And I just think that this year's one, to me, validates that contract even more. And what I mean by that is, look, it stinks for the Pacers that this great season for him is coming in a bad year for the team and a bad year for the franchise record-wise after a magical year, because how many people, and I mentioned it, myself included, were like, I wonder if he'll start to show signs of aging during his current contract. And I believed it was still worth it. I said I would have done it, obviously, but people wondered, like, are the back end of that going to be ugly? And now 2 years in, he has been more than worth it, absolutely more than worth it. And so already, even if he does start to show aging next year, it was 100% the right choice for the Pacers to give him a 4-year max. All the decisions they made with Siakam, trading for him, re-signing him, and re-signing him to this contract have paid off. He has paid it off for them by playing awesome basketball, being a great leader for the team, helping young guys grow, helping them make winning their center, even in a year where they're not winning. And I'm glad he is rewarded for the season he's had, the production he's had, and that was given, and he was given this honor as a result. Pascal Siakam will be in LA. Perhaps the only Pacers rep out there, but well-deserved. His 4th time, like I said, and 1st time consecutively. And now over All-Star break, we'll have something to talk about because he will be on Team World. I've seen a post of who's on that team. I did not type it down. I don't know if people really care about that. You can look it up if you need to. And that is All-Star. Congrats to Pascal. Well-deserved for him. I got a kick out of him watching the broadcast, and he saw Karl Towns was named an All-Star, and then he goes, I don't think I'm going to make it. And then he was the very next player. He was very excited. Well-deserved for him. You can watch that video on his, I believe, Instagram and Twitter feeds. Now, let's talk some trades with Rhett Bauer. It's February. We did a December 15th show. We did a January 15th show. Now we'll do one more ahead of the deadline because there's 2 games, and then it's there. So Rhett's going to join us to do updated trade takes and look more at the Pacers' big topics, what's changed in the last couple weeks and what hasn't. That's coming up here on Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, got to take a short little break so we can talk about PrizePicks. The big game is almost here. There's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than PrizePicks, where it feels good to be right. And this week, PrizePicks has a special max discount for the big game live in the app right now. Drake May just needs 1 passing yard for the max discount to win. Add another player to your lineup. And if your picks hit, you cash in. PrizePicks is super simple to use. Takes no time to get started. The whole format is clean. Pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections. Makes watching games even more fun because every drive and every stat matters. The social feed feature is awesome. You can share lineups and even copy lineups from winners with 1 click, and many love that you can follow PrizePicks patterns like tail or fade picks right from the feed. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play our first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after that first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. We're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day, or second listen. Locked On Hawks or Locked On Blazers. A small trade. Vit Krejci, Duop Reith. You can hop over there. And hey, the NBA trade deadline is basically here. We want to give you a free month of our new Everydayer Club here at Locked On to get ready. If you need a group chat to keep up with chaos, join ours. The Everydayer Club gets you access to a group chat on Discord just for Pacers fans, plus national chats where you can hang out with some fans from across the league. You get ad-free versions of this podcast. And if you sign up by the trade deadline on February 5th, you can use the code DEADLINE to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Now Rhett Bauer is going to join. Let's talk some Pacers trade deadline outlook. Thus concludes All-Star discussions, and it is February. It is time to shift back once again to the trade landscape for the Pacers, which means you know who's here. Rhett Bauer is back once again, as he is, and we just did our normal BSing for 30 minutes about trade nonsense around the NBA because Vit Krejci just got traded before we started recording. Rhett, hello. How are you?
I'm great. The market for a center of Duop Reith's caliber has been set, and that is noteworthy for absolutely nobody.
Oh, I'm glad we knew that one. That was really the issue of looking ahead for the trade market. Perhaps another trade is done by the time this episode is posted. Clearly, things are speeding up around the league because 2 trades have happened in the last now about 13 hours of time, and we will continue to talk about the Pacers and their outlook ahead of the deadline. We have to update some things we said last time. We have to generally talk about the team, and it's very funny because last time we did the first time we did this, it was mid-December, and they had recently won 5 of 10 and had a nice stretch going into the cut break, and then they lost 2, but hadn't quite hit the bottom yet. And then we recorded mid-January, and they lost almost every game between our 2 recordings, and so our outlook was just like, yeah, they're not good. They should not be buyers, et cetera, et cetera. And then since then, Rhett, a lot has changed in that they're playing kind of well. I think they've won half their games since we last talked. And young guys have ascended all over the place. And it kind of, not meaningfully, that seems a little intense as a word choice to me, but has some sort of like actual decent bearing of change of heart to me, at least a little bit, on what I would think about at the deadline. Do you agree with that?
I do not agree that young guys have been ascending all over the place, which is something that we will get to later on today.
Yes, 2 guys in many ways. How about that?
Yes, that's great. And those 2 guys are very, very, very important. And so I don't want to disagree for disagreement's sake, but no, I completely agree. And it does just look a little bit different. Obviously winning half your games instead of being like 1 in 10 or losing like 13 straight or something stupid like that is a different beast, but it helps to see you can make conclusions based off of the play that you're seeing right now from some of the guys. And I think that especially helps with how up and down the early parts of the season works. Like this is just a disaster of an injury report that you can't do anything with. And now we actually get some data. So
yeah, Jarris is, of course, you have to bake in that the first part of the season did happen. But yes. I don't know how you feel or how everybody listening feels, but I personally hit a point, I would say about 10 days ago, and I even said this on the podcast, where he got to the point where when he missed a 3, I was actually like surprised, right? And it felt the opposite for so long, where every 3 he took did not feel like it was going in. And then he just, in the last game before we're recording this, played a game that I would consider bad and had a double-double. Like that is how his standards have shifted. Like he is playing legitimately very well for like a month and a half now. And so obviously there's a chance that early season Jarris returns at some point. I don't know what that chance is. It might be a low percentage, but I think if you're the Pacers, you feel much more comfortable of like, okay, if we have to somehow rely on Jarris next year as our 10th man or in our rotation, you're not as scared of it. You're not, maybe we're not even scared at all, right? You're comfortable with that reality, which we were debating in the top 3 most likely to be traded candidates him at this time, like halfway through last month, because it was still like not a fresh set of better play from him, but it didn't feel like it had hit the point where it was trustworthy, and now it does. And I think that is, of course, extremely significant for a former lottery pick and just generally. And of course, it does this thing, and I get why people think this way when he's mentioned on the trade block or whatever. Maybe that's just by us, but where fans go, well, this is great. He's playing better. Maybe his trade value is higher now. And I'm like, dude, if you're the Pacers, you're happy he's playing better because he's playing better and he's on your team. Great news. One of your young players is better, right? It's good for the team he's on just as much as everyone else. So in every way, it's good news for the Pacers.
Yeah, there's in no world is Jarris playing better something that makes me want to trade him. Like the whole point of having a younger player that's playing well at a position that you likely need is that he's playing well for you. And unless somebody's going to blow your doors off because they love 10 games of Jarris Walker, like I just don't. That's not really much of a consideration. But I think what's been really neat is in the last week or so, he's had 3 of his 10 highest scoring games of his career. And like in this season, he's had 5 of his 10 highest rebounding games. And he's had 3 of his 10 career high in assists, and 2 of his top 5 steals games have come in this month. Like there's just so many positive indicators. And it's not that yes, he is playing more, like 26 minutes a game over the last 11 games, but he was playing 30 minutes a game for like the first month or so of the season. And it was horrible. It was so bad. And a lot of it was injury related, but like he's just playing well, and he's playing well with Nembhard and with Siakam and with Nesmith. And, it seems like they're getting into a rhythm that, yeah, he's hitting 49% of his threes, and you don't expect that to continue. But at the very least, he's playing well across the board in a way that is like, he's not, we talked about it before, but he is doing sort of what we expected or what we had hoped he would do. And that is incredibly encouraging after what was a very rocky start and right before a deadline where you have to take in the offseason considerations as well.
And of course, at the same time, not at the same volume of impressiveness, I would say, but Johnny Furphy just continues to hit the court. And we're talking after his worst game of the season, unfortunately, but not worst of the season, worst of since his stretch of being a very clearly good player. Yeah. Defending very well, high profile defensive moments now, making shots here and there that are important for his development, an occasional drive to the basket with some real force and power. And just by the way, among, if not their number 1 best perimeter rebounder on the team, it's him or Mathurin. A clear, it's a different discussion with Jarris. If he's your 10th guy, are you like so excited next year? Maybe not like, yeah, but you're comfortable with that, I would say, because you're assuming he will be better, even if not inconsistent as a former 2nd round pick. And that's very meaningful that 2 guys have increased how the Pacers would feel in their tummy if they had to rely on them next year, because it's going to be crowded still, once again, right? They have a lot of young players who've been fighting for minutes even this year. And next year, that will be more the case, pending health recoveries and draft picks, right? And so 2 guys playing well in that reality certainly changes, I think, what you'd be considering as the Pacers with the deadline approaching. I think that's the 2 biggest things. And the third thing actually ties into their usual deadline plan. It's been the most commonly discussed thing. I would say over half the calls people have had for me, which I'm not a majorly plugged in insider or anything, but people around the league who wonder about the Pacers, they all wonder about the center spot, right? Duh. What's going on at the 5? And since we talked, did they play Miami before we talked? Right, I can't remember. They did. They played Miami before we last spoke. Yes, but then they only gone small once. Since then, they have gone small several times. OKC, Atlanta twice, Chicago, and you've seen what it does for their offense and how they like the pace and space elements that it provides. And in most of those games, actually, they end up closing with a center. Michael Potter in OKC. Jay Huff in this most recent win against the Hawks. They Huff against the Bulls, right? They're still relying on centers often, but I think they've sort of expanded the horizons of their front court in the last, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, in a way that, we already knew this, but really hammers home they need a starting center. They really, really, really need a starting center, Rhett.
Yes. Yeah. And I think the most impressive thing, and it's the biggest credit to Jairus, is that they are doing this without Obi Toppin. Because we said before the year, who's the Pacers' best center? It's probably just Obi Toppin. That's just probably their best bet. And Jairus has made it to where they can.
You know what's funny? He played 3 mediocre games this year, and it still has hammered home the point that he would have been the answer.
The bar is not great, but we'll get there. So no, that's absolutely right. And I think with with the way that some of the backups have played, it sort of, again, gives you a certain comfort level of, okay, that we can expect this level of production from our backup. And that is great. That just has a ripple effect of, you increase your starter ability. Now you have a high quality backup, and now you're just, generally speaking, going to have an increased level of production from that position. But I don't know that the landscape of the acquiring that starting center has gotten any better since the last 2 times we've spoken either.
I'd agree with that. There's no perfect option. The only one that is this would be, I think, perfect for them from a salary and player perspective is a player who just doesn't seem to be available. And that's Onyeka Okongwu, who has fewer teeth right now than he did last time we talked. I guess that's a relevant consideration. But I just, why would the Hawks trade him, right? If the Pacers blow them away, maybe it's perfect. And there's a lot of good options, to be clear. Yeah. But there's he's perfect. He's available. But everyone else, there's some consideration of their salary, of their skill set, or whatever that doesn't seem perfect. And I'm not saying that should scare them away from doing something. It just that makes this very debatable in so many ways. If you think salary is the most important thing, then you might not be interested in a Nick Claxton type, even though he has really upped his passing capabilities this season in a way that actually would make him a better fit with the Pacers. If you think shooting is the most meaningful thing, there's lots of centers that immediately you'd be crossing off your list. If you think age is the most important thing, well, then you got to pay a pretty penny for them. Maybe that's not worth it. There's just so many factors at play that make it very complicated. And so there's a lot of guys they could get that I think after the deadline, fans would go, great, awesome. That guy should start for them next year. That's really good. But it's very unclear to me what the center market's going to be, and if now is the right time to do it. And I'm not saying that to say that waiting is better. It's driving me crazy how many people are saying that with no basis or backing. It might be the market might be better in the summer. It might be worse. I have no idea. You have no idea. We have no idea what the playoffs are going to change, how the playoffs are going to change things or anything of that nature. But it's hard to say what the perfect center situation is. And that has not changed since we last talked. It's been the same guys the whole time, but what they've done in the front court has certainly, let's say, changed as they keep experimenting. So we'll see.
The Clippers are also playing better, so Zubac as a potential target feels a little bit less. So I know he missed a dunk the other night, and there was a funny reference to Jokic's defensive prowess that he. And
the NBA agreed that the Clippers are playing good enough. No one trade for the Clippers stuff. Let the Clippers make the playoffs so the Thunder don't get a lottery pick, and then we can all move on with our lives.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. It's like there's a collusion that's acceptable. It's hey, nobody do anything.
The Clippers are going to be in the final play-in game to make the playoffs as the 8th seed, and their opponents can be we forfeit. You know what? They can have it.
How much is this play-in win? Nothing.
And then the Thunder beat the Clippers in 4 games very handily, and everyone's that's fine. It's okay. It's a 15th pick instead of the 6th pick. That's great news for
right.
One more break, everybody. Let's talk about 2 awesome groups of people. First up is Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part has not always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. Puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Pull up the Game Time app, pick an upcoming game, bang, you can have tickets within minutes. You'll get the all-in price up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You'll be able to see the view from your seat before buying. To make the decision even easier, there's zone deals where you just choose your section. They pick great seats. You save. Great last-minute options, too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, that's gametime.co, not betterhelp.com. Let me also talk to you guys about BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. February can be a lot. Flowers, candy, stuffed animals, and so much to talk about relationships. It can feel like everyone else has it together in their love life, but here's the truth. Whether you're married, dating, single, or just focusing on you, most people are still figuring it out. And no matter where you are in your romantic journey, therapy can help you find your way. It can help you get clear on what you want, what feels heavy, and how to take some pressure off yourself. It's easy to assume everybody has a perfect relationship, but most everyone is working through something, and therapy can help you recognize patterns. That might be weighing relationships down. It can help you communicate better, set healthier boundaries, and stop carrying everything alone. And even if you're not in a relationship right now, therapy can help you feel more confident in what you want moving forward. And the biggest thing, it reminds you that you're not behind, you're right on time. BetterHelp has licensed therapists in the U.S. They do the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your goals. And if you want to switch therapists, you can do so at any time. Sign up, get 10% off at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. And we're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Hop on over to any of the teams involved in a trade so far. Rhett and I were talking as the Vit Krejci Dwap Hawks Blazers trade broke. So your second listen could be either Locked On Hawks or Locked On Blazers. And don't forget about the Everydayer Club. If you're watching on YouTube, the link's on your screen. You can join ad-free episodes of Locked On Pacers, as well as an exclusive Discord server where you can chat with other Everyday Club members. Really awesome thing. The link to that is in the description of this episode as well. Let's get back to it with Rhett. Okay, so everything we just said ties into one thing for me, and that is that I would say there's one player that I think is at least a trade candidate now, and maybe he always should have been or was. That I'm not saying if I'm the Pacers, I'm like actively shopping this guy or really psyched about moving him or even really know what his value is. But I just think if you're more comfortable with Walker and Furphy, and you have a draft pick that seems like it's trending towards, just given the way the mock drafts had gone, a perimeter player, not a big, that I think is maybe perhaps a little more expendable. And that player is Ben Sheppard. And I'm not saying the Pacers should be going to this deadline like, I am Ben Sheppard, we're open for business, right? Like, he's been in their rotation for 2 straight postseasons and a reliable contributor both times, and they keep playing him. And he, as Rick Carlisle said, is very, very good in his role, a star in his role, he has said. I'm not saying they should trade Ben Sheppard. I'm saying I at least would understand it way more than I would have 2 weeks ago, in that, is there even a rotation spot available for him next year? And is he even one injury away from a rotation spot being available for him next year? Maybe he would still be their 10th man. Furphy and Walker would be in that mix as well if they're all even on the team. And oh, by the way, Ben Mathurin could still be back. We'll talk about him obviously in a second. So like, Sheppard seems to be just falling a little farther from like guaranteed minutes next year, and his salary goes up, not a lot, but it bumps close to $5 million next year. And if they're a team that is so conscious about this line of the tax next year, maybe they won't be, but if they are, maybe there is something to being comfortable moving him in a way that they weren't last time we chatted. So I am not predicting a Ben Sheppard trade, but I think they would be, or not would be. I think they could be more amenable to that. At least logic dictates and the cap dictates than they were last time we talked.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned Sheppard as a potential trade candidate. It's like, hey, do you just can you get something for it? Like, I don't know what, even if that something is, like if Vit Krejci is worth 2 seconds, maybe Ben Sheppard is worth a second or 2 seconds, and maybe that would be a consideration for the Pacers because of the salary implications of next year, especially with going to be a decently high draft pick and the salary that comes along with that. So I definitely think that Sheppard is up there, especially because I think the biggest pro for guys like Jarris and Furphy as coming off of the bench is the positional flexibility, because we've seen Ben Sheppard, he's not a forward. Like, he's very definitely in that wing category. And the fact that he has to contend with, the Nembhard, Nesmith, Mathurin, like now Jarris and Furphy, like there's just a lot of guys, and that $5 million next year is more than what Jay Huff and Johnny Furphy will make combined. So like, that's a very significant number as they're looking to probably not pay the tax, and that $5 million can be reallocated to somebody's salary, which is going to be very important for these starting center considerations.
Yes, I agree with all of that. And again, it's not like I'm like, all right, Ben Sheppard's available, give me your best offer. But like, if he is if he can bridge the gap in a bigger trade, or if someone does actually want him in a meaningful way, I'd at least listen and have a meeting about it, because you'd be comfortable with Johnny Furphy or Jarris Walker stepping into that role, or draft pick X being in your rotation, or whatever it may be. Or like, just get a two-guard in free agency at the minimum, who's probably going to be worse than Ben Shepherd, but can be a depth piece. Actually, would almost certainly be worse than Ben Shepherd, but could be a depth piece for the Pacers. If that is a way to reallocate your assets in a way that, and he also, I don't know if you listened to me do this, when I went back and looked at what the Warriors and Cavs did the year they were bad after the finals, it's like they were kind of willing to do stuff like that. You know, like Willie Cauley-Stein was like young and interesting, and the Warriors were like, nah, you can go to Dallas. You know, it's like, it's not, you know, it's not, if you're pretty sure about a guy's role, it's not unreasonable. So he's just risen a little more to me than I would have thought, even though I still probably would expect he'll be on the team come Friday. Do you have anyone who's changed in your trade mind?
The only thing I want to say about Ben Shepherd specifically is if there's a big consolidation trade for somebody making a big swing, then Ben Shepherd could slot in as like, hey, we traded 4 for 1, and now we would like to try and trade something to get a very cheap rotation player in. Like, I could see a situation like that where, you need to dump some salary or something like that. But the biggest change is that last time we talked, I had Isaiah Jackson as the most likely to be traded, and that is not true anymore.
No,
by a lot.
I do not agree with my own. I also said that.
I know. Yeah. Yep. No. It's
no,
Ben.
I do
it's
not
Mathurin.
think so. Look, yes, for all of we do this game every year. Last year last year was such a layup. Wiseman was like fast break layup. No defender even opted to get back. Obvious levels of stuff last year. This year, I didn't think it was as obvious. We had the same podium 3 last year of Mathurin, Jackson, and Walker, and I still think Jackson is keep your eye on him stuff. Nothing has changed with him. He's overpaid for his role. He plays 6 minutes a night right now. Like, that's nothing, right? They're playing Potter and Huff routinely over him. He deserves to play. He's not bad, but he's making $7.5 million. But yeah, Mathurin has like far exceeded him to me. Now, it's how expiring contracts go for every team. It's how expiring contracts go for the Pacers. They've had guys behind him ascending, as we already talked about, and just chatter has really, really ramped up with his name. It's just how it is, right? And so maybe he'll make it. If they don't get an offer they like, they still have restricted free agency as a crutch. They could sign and trade him. I'm still amazed how many people just don't get that. It's not like they would get the same value. They'd probably get less value by signing and trading him than they would right now. Not nothing, but less, right? His salary is so limited, and he has to agree. You have to, if you are getting signed and traded, you have to agree to do that. You could just not sign, right? So there's so many factors involved in that his value would probably be lower in the summer. It's still possible to do, obviously, but if you're the Pacers, it's a risk you have to think about. And if you trade him now, it's a known commodity. The other team is aware of what they're getting, and while nothing has really changed with other players, I think that I was just wrong last time, quite frankly. I think Ben Mathurin is the most likely player to be traded, yes.
Well, and the other thing, we talked about it with Jairus, is like, hey, if he's playing better for your team. So, like, why would you want to trade him? But Ben Mathurin hasn't been playing better, so he's playing worse. So why would somebody want to trade for that player? Like, there's a certain skill set aspect of it, but
he didn't play. Like, he in this gap between our things, he's played 3 games because he was hurt.
Yeah.
And one of them, he was really great in one half and very bad in the other half. And and then the most recent game they played against the Hawks, he was largely pretty good. I thought he did a lot of the little stuff. And then in between, they played the Bulls, and he was solid enough, okay. But they're still like, they didn't close 2 of the games with him. They did the third time. Like, their priorities clearly have shifted even with him in games recently, and maybe that is health related, but that also is maybe a smidge telling to me. Maybe I'm overthinking that. So we will see where this is headed. But yes, I'm revising my answer thanks to new information and time. And Ben Mathurin is now, I think, the most likely to be traded, and I don't think that will change for me. And I'm not even predicting that he will be, but I think it's the most likely player if the Pacers do make a trade.
Agreed. And I think
what a weird situation, man. What a weird one.
Yeah, man. So many examples of restricted free agency last deadline, and then obviously into the summer, and it seems like we're going to get another weird one.
Yeah, and everybody wanted to comp it to Kuminga, who didn't fit with Golden State, but was clearly talented, and they might get nothing for him, nothing at all. And by the way, their GM said that on the record. That was shocking admission. But like that, you know how low a player's value has to be for your GM to grab a mic and go, yeah, for a trade demand to be a value, there has to be demand for the player. Holy cow! Through the heart, man. That is crazy stuff. And again, the winner of all this was Josh Giddey, as I've gone through many times, and he got traded to a good situation earlier than everyone else, right? Absolutely the earliest of everybody else. Who knows what would have happened with Grimes if he stayed with Dallas? Maybe he would have got paid by getting traded there earlier than everyone else. So I'm not saying that means anything for the Pacers considerations, but it certainly matters to have everybody in the right seat on the bus, and that helps Josh Giddey quite a bit. We'll see what it means for Ben Mathurin and what his value is and what other teams think of him. Rhett, we will not be previewing the deadline together anymore. So I'd like to salute you for your 3 episodes of service as the very strange season of post-Game 7 of the finals into very often the worst record of the league has created the probably weirdest trade deadline outlook I've ever had to cover. Thank you for your help.
Yeah, I don't even know how much I contributed because it's like we don't know. We don't know. We need a starting center, but also they're not trying to be good this year. It's like I don't know. So I appreciate you having me back, and let's hope that we have an emergency pod sometime in the next couple of days where there's something crazy enough that it warrants talking about it.
Can we pick a moderate crazy level? If it's really crazy, I'd have to drop my whole life to get on it. I don't like when that happens.
Same day crazy, not 2 hour delivery crazy. How about that?
I'm good with that. Like Jordan Wara, I'm not like, oh, gotta go. We can't go to dinner. I gotta go grab the mic for Jordan Wara. But Tyrese Haliburton is like, hey, honey, we gotta go. You're paying for dinner.
Yeah.
So yeah, somewhere in between the biggest trade they've done since I've covered them and the smallest. Rhett, thank you very much for the time. Everybody, thank you for listening today. On this dual all-star and trade front. Back tomorrow talking Pacers, I believe Rockets. I can't remember which of their 2 back-to-back games is first, and we'll do a trade segment every single day until the deadline is over. Thank you all so much for listening. We will see you very soon.